Hi guys, Sunny Zoe from Cuts4Scruffs. I thought I'd just give you a quick tutorial today about how to brush your dog. So obviously I'm not going to get Dougie on the table, I'm not going to use any grooming equipment, anything like that, because I'm just going to try and do it as you guys would from home. An itch there. Yeah, I've got an itchy ear, I know. Yeah, so basically I'm going to talk to you about obviously Cocker Spaniel coat mainly, but this does also apply to most dog breeds that any of you would own. If you want to see sort of like specifics on dog breeds, like what brushes to use and how often to use them as well, we do have a post on our Facebook that I'll link above, so say hi, Sharon. This is a home grooming video. So yeah, I'm going to link it above, so if you guys want to click on that, it'll show you all the different brushes and anything. But obviously any questions you've got, if you want to know specifics, just give us a message, we'll be able to help you out. Yeah, so basically, first thing you want to do, just make sure the dog's nice and relaxed, nice and calm. Get them on a sofa, somewhere they feel comfortable. And the first thing you always want to do is just make sure they've got all of their sort of their bits and bobs. So any collars, harnesses, anything like that, we're going to take off first. So, can I have your collar, Dougie? Hi. Thank you. Can I have your collar? Thank you. Good boy. So the reason we always take these off is obviously we want to get underneath all of these areas where these have been sort of rubbing against their fur all day. So because that's one of the areas that we do see quite a bit of matting, so around the collar area, under harnesses and things like that. So once they're all off, we're going to start off by using what we call a slicker brush. So that's one of these. And basically these brushes, they can be double-sided or one-sided, and they basically just have like small sort of thin metal prongs on them, and they're really good for Dougie, come on, good boy. They're really good for getting right down to the skin on your dog breeds, and just separating all that fur so it gets nice and brushed out. So with Dougie, I keep him in a bit of a sort of a pet / show trim, so somewhere in the middle, bit of longer feathering on the bottoms but nice and short on the back. So with his shorter fur, doesn't need too much of a brush, to be honest, as there's not a lot of fur there, it's not going to get knotted very easily. But with all his longer, it's all his ears, his legs, his tail, everything like that. We do try and brush every other day just to keep the knots out, especially if he's going out in the rain or running around in the fields. He can get all sorts tangled up in there, so it's good just to keep on top of it every other day and give him a brush through. So we're going to start off with a slicker brush. Obviously you want to make sure that you're not using this too hard so that it scratches the skin, but still hard enough so that you're getting right down to skin and separating all the fur just to get all the knots out. So I'm going to start with Dougie's ears because he quite likes his ears being done. And obviously you just want to find your longer bits, make sure you're going through your slicker brush, and just make sure you're going right down to the skin. And particularly with ears, hello, are you enjoying that? Yeah, sure enough. Particularly with your ears, you want to make sure that you're getting right down to the bottom, so right down on these end bits here. I know. And also, I'll show you on this one once he's round here, right at the back here as well, we want to be getting in and making sure we get all of those little hairs. What you can do as well, if they've got really thick ears like Dougie, is separate this fur so you get all of this long stuff on top and pull it back, and then make sure you're getting underneath with the brush there as well. Al, do you want to come and do a little bit of a close-up so they can see? And obviously as well, we want to do the inside of the ears. So you've done all the outside, make sure you get into the inside of the ears as well. So like I said, separate all that up, and then you want to get right down to the bottom, and the same, separate all of that fur and get right down. So you can see how we're, instead of just going straight over the top and sort of forgetting all this underneath, we're separating, which means we can get right down to the skin and get all those little knotties out. But you can see I'm not pressing very hard, so you know it's not going to hurt, it's not going to be any discomfort for him, it's just going to get all those little knots out. So we've got one lovely silky ear now compared to a very curly, very, very curly ear. Okay, so we'll just quickly do that one as well. Good boy. And particularly with your fluffy breeds as well, you want to make sure you're getting right behind these ears, because that's where all of the matting tends to hide, in this bit behind the ear as well. Obviously Dougie's quite short there, so we don't need to do too much work on Dougie's. There you go, Dougie Woo. And if you do this often enough, if you do it sort of every other day or so, then it should just, that quick, I know, darling, that quick brush, 5 minutes, and that should be enough then, if you're doing it regularly. So now I'm going to go on to his sort of, his feathering, so all of this underneath and his leg is. So we hold this, and we're going to do exactly the same. I know, you're not as much of a fan of your legs as you are with your ears, are you? And all we're going to do is exactly the same. So you make sure that you do all of the leg. I know, baby. You're going to lie back so everyone can see. Lie down. Oh, it's a good boy. And then we want to pick the leg up and make sure you go all the way underneath, all the way on the inside, right down to the fur. You can separate it if you find that easier. Brush right down to the skin, all of the way. And then obviously we want to make sure we get in their little armpits as well. So all of that under there. Again, another place where it's rubbing when they're running around, anything like that, where it's going to get a little bit knotty. So that's always good to get underneath. So now I'm going to do his belly. And get all of this under here. There we go. And go down to his back leg. And you can see, you know, it's not pressing too hard, but you just want to make sure you get right down to the skin rather than just going over the top and leaving the rest. So we want to get right underneath. And you can see the difference from when you've sort of not brushed it to when you have brushed it, because it's a lot smoother, it's a lot silkier, just much sort of softer as well. Hello, I know. You're being very good, aren't you? Very good boy. All right then. So now we're going to do the back of his leggies. Good boy. So we have also uploaded a drawing on our Facebook of sort of the more particular areas to brush as well, which are really important. So anything sort of lower down towards the ground is more important to brush, really, because obviously they're the bits that are like picking up the mud, picking up the dirt, eh? Because we like rolling through the muds, don't we? And it just collects things from the field. So it's they're the most places that you need to brush more regularly, just because they're the ones that are going to get a bit knotty. So yeah, so we've done your leggy, we've done your belly, we do need to do your back leg, and we need to do your belly, don't we? Yes, we do. Well, your chest. Okay, can we do this chest? Thank you very much. That's a good laddie. Well done. And of course, I mean, if your dog doesn't like, I mean, Dougie loves the brushing, as you can see, you can't get enough of it, but if your dog doesn't like the brushing too much, you can always use treats to tempt them. You know, make sure that someone else is with you, giving them lots of love, giving them attention, sort of distracting them from the brush. Anything you can do to make it a positive experience is much better for them, because then they'll learn to really enjoy it. So, right, Dougie, I'm just going to move you around that way a minute, darling. Whee! There you go. And we're just going to get your bum. All right? Obviously, every inch of fur on a dog needs to be brushed, especially around the back end, because we know they can get a bit grubby there. Hang on, darling. Don't you go nowhere. I know. So we just want to make sure that all of that is brushed out like that. Okay. So now we want to do their tail as well. So sometimes with the tails, they can get mats in, because what tends to happen is when people are brushing, you'll tend to do the longer bits down here, but you'll forget to go right up against the skin, like we were saying with the knot. So obviously you want to brush all of the longer sections, like so, and you can see how much more silky and lovely that looks already. But then what you want to do is make sure you're separating the fur so you can see right down to the skin. So all of this under here needs brushing, which is why it's really important to get right down in there. Separate little bits at a time. and just make sure you're getting right down to the skin. Again, much more important with sort of longer hair breeds, curlier hair breeds, ones which have really tight coats on them, because they do get knotty a lot easier. Okay, so a couple other areas that are obviously quite important on other dogs, not necessarily Dougie, but if they've got big fluffy feet, obviously we want to be getting their feet, so you want to be making sure, I know, he doesn't normally have his feet brushed, he's thinking what's going on. So we want to get all of this fluffy stuff in between their toes, and you just want to make sure that you're brushing all of that foot out, so that they don't get any knotties in there as well, because like we said, everything closer to the ground is going to get knotty first, so that's what we want to focus on. And what was the other bit I was going to do, Dougie? Oh, face as well. So Dougie has no fur on his face. Obviously we don't need to brush his face, and I'm not going to use the actual brush on him because he doesn't have anything there. It probably would scratch a little bit, but what I tend to do, so if they do have fur on their face, the easiest thing to do is either hold the fur that's underneath their chin, so if he had fur here, I'd hold that to keep him still, or what you can do is just gently hold just around their nose like that as well, so you're keeping them still without squeezing too tight obviously, but just gently, just to hold them still. And then with your brush you'd go down the one side of the beard like so, and then switch to the other side and go down the other side of the beard as well. And then obviously you always want to make sure that you get underneath, because this is where they're going to get all their food, all their water, all the gross grubby things. Yes, so again, just lift the beard. I know, lift his nose so you can see the beard, and you just want to go underneath, if you can see that, just to get all that out as well. And there we go, hey, all brushed out and lovely. So obviously I haven't done the other side, but I'll just show you this side for now. So then after you've gone through with your brush, that will do the majority of the work for you. And then the only other thing you want to do is go through with your comb afterwards. So the reason it's really important to go through with the comb is because sometimes the brush won't pick up the knots quite as well as the comb will. So you'll think you've brushed them out and you'll think it will feel really nice and really lovely, but it might not be getting quite down right to the bottom where the knots are. So really important to go back through with the comb. Only take a couple minutes extra, but you just want to make sure that you're going through with the comb and getting all the little extra bits out. Oh, I know. And with the combs again, always a metal comb, don't go for plastic, always metal, and you just want to make sure you're going right down to the skin. So usually with Dougie's ears, I'll go through with the brush. I always pick up little extra ones with the comb, particularly right on the bottom, all of these areas here. You can see how it's getting a little bit stuck on the way out. That is just those little bits of dead fur, which are just going to be clinging in there, that the brush wasn't quite able to pick up. So just want to make sure we've got all those knotties out. So if you do find like a big knot in there, you can obviously sort of separate the fur again. I know. Can I show them your ear? So you separate the fur again, and then go with your comb and just very gently just pick out the little knot like that. If it's a really big mat, you won't be able to brush it out, unfortunately, but if it's little knots here and there, you should be able to just give it a go very, very gently, obviously, so you're not pulling on their skin too much, but just to get those little knotties out like so. So you can see just with Dougie's ears there, I've only just done a really quick brush, but you can see loads extra has just come out, all of that dead fur. So that's what's going to get in there and sort of mat up when you're not brushing that little extra bit out. So that's why it's really important. Obviously, again, you can go through his leggies with the brush, and you'll be able to feel with the comb where it's getting a little bit more stuck, like so, just to get that little extra bit out. Can I move you over there, baby? I know. Who's your good boy, ain't ya? Hey? And again, on the belly, make sure you're getting in your armpits, all in your groiny bit here as well. Anything that's going to get knotty. And can we get your bum? Can we get your bum as well? Thank you. Good lad. And then again with your tail, right down to the skin. There you go. are. All done. There you go, Dougie Woo. You've been very good, haven't you? I know. Woohoo! Show everyone how handsome you are.